15 years ago, I was living hand to mouth in New York City. I actually had to be one of those people that handed out flyers on the streets for local political candidates just to have enough money to eat. Today, I am Vice President of Digital Innovation and Content for the world's largest beauty company. And I have to tell you, getting to where I am at this very moment has not been easy. I was born and raised in New York, Pennsylvania, in a single-parent household with my mom and my sister. My parents had a very messy divorce. We struggled financially. I've actually been working since I was 16 years old to just put myself through college and graduate school. Just to distract myself, I've always been a person and a kid who loved storytelling. I love to make people laugh. I love to write. And it's just kept me alive and helped me survive during a very difficult time during my childhood. I also have been very entrepreneurial. When I was a kid, I actually launched a company in 1977 called Weiss Incorporated. It lasted through 1993, and I gotta tell you, it was completely unprofitable. But we were very prolific. I had a one-woman band called Rachel Goes to Epcot Center. I produced how-to guides that I gave to my friends in school. I even had a recorded radio show on a cassette tape called The Rachel Weiss Radio Show, where I interviewed celebrities played by myself and distributed that to my friends at school. I was kind of a dork. So imagine in 1989 when I got my hands on my first computer. I had a whole new toy to help me tell my stories. But I also intuitively knew that this computer was going to be my ticket to somehow having a job in an independent future. I went to New York City. I studied cinema studies, a very lucrative career in the early 90s. And I got a job as an administrative assistant because I had computer skills. And at night, I dabbled in stand-up comedy. I thought, you know what? I'm in New York City. Maybe that's my ticket. Stand-up comedy was hot in the early 90s. And then I bumped into something that changed my life forever, and that was GeoCities. I created a website called Weiss World. I used it to promote my stand-up comedy career. I used it to practice my HTML skills, and I love to tell celebrity gossip. And then I got into massive, massive trouble. I actually wrote a piece of gossip on Weiss World. I didn't think anyone was even visiting it. That got picked up by the tabloids. My name was in the National Enquirer. Now you have to remember, there were no Twitter wars back then. There were no Perez Hilton. I can't even name this person. He's so famous, and I'm still scared of him, and I'm not scared of very much. I was threatened with a lawsuit. He even threatened to have me fired from my day job. And I was scared to death. I was way in over my head, and I was so afraid I was going to lose everything that I had. I actually took down Weiss World, and I actually quit stand-up comedy. But sometimes getting in trouble can be the best thing that ever happens to you. I got a call from some friends in the late 90s who was creating a portal for 20-somethings, and they didn't care about the tabloids or the celebrity scandal. They wanted to hire me because they thought maybe I was someone who could drive traffic to a website. I finally had a job doing what I love to do. And then it all crashed and burned. The bubble burst, 9/11 happened, and for 2 years, I really struggled. That's when I was handing out flyers on the street. I had to borrow money from my friends. I sometimes worked as a cashier in a restaurant for a minimum wage. I was 30 years old and very depressed, and I had no idea what my future held for me. I realized I had two choices at this point in my life. I could either go home or go back to being scrappy. I launched a blog. I called it NYC Babylon. My tagline was, I'm a celebrity in my own mind. I went back to comedy. I figured out how to podcast with my best friend. We started producing weekly shows. This was before iTunes even had its channel. I started putting up YouTube videos about my cat. I actually created a digital resume to help me get back in the workforce and back on my feet. And it worked. I actually got jobs doing what I love to do. I was one of the few people who had been there unraveling the possibilities of what digital communication could be. And that leads me where I am today. I actually have a job in digital innovation, and I am so proud and honored and thrilled that I actually am able to get paid for what I was already doing in the last 20 years for free on a Saturday. And I tell this story because I realize that everyone has hardships that take you off of your path. That as I get older, I realize going from point A to point B is something that you just simply cannot plan. And I love my scrappy roots. Scrappy Rachel makes everything about me more enjoyable. It makes me better to be around, more hilarious, a better friend, and it makes me better at my job. Scrappy Rachel goes home and still does Mr. T impressions on her podcast. Scrappy Rachel loves to live blog the award shows. Scrappy Rachel unapologetically still has a Facebook page for her cat. As I look around this room, I guess that there are people here who sometimes feel like you might have your soul sucked out of you by being a good corporate executive. Raise your hand if you're one of them. Getting from point A to point B can be exhausting, and we can lose touch with who we really are. Perhaps you have lost touch with your scrappy roots. I imagine that there still is a scrappy portion inside of you. Embrace the scrappy version of you. Your career and your soul will thank you. Thank you.